There's a rhythm beneath your restlessness, a silent current flowing just under the noise of your anxious mind. Most of us spend our lives trying to quiet the storm, never realizing the storm itself is part of the music. Every racing thought, every tight breath is not a flaw, it's a signal. A message, a sacred nudge from something greater, reminding you that you're alive, that you're feeling, that you're still in the dance. What if your anxious thoughts weren't enemies to conquer, but invitations to come home to yourself? What if they were movements in the grand score of your life, moments asking to be heard, not feared? You are not here by accident. The chaos has meaning. The discomfort has direction. And buried within the static is a quiet trick, an elegant shift that can return you to peace. Because the truth is, even in your most anxious moments, the universe never stopped composing beauty through you. Let's begin with something most of us have never been told. Anxiety is not out to get you. It's not some invisible monster hiding in your nervous system, waiting to pounce the moment things get quiet. It's not brokenness. It's not weakness. It's not something to fear. Anxiety is a messenger. Now, I know how it feels. The racing thoughts, the tight chest, the need to escape your own mind. I've been there. Maybe you're there right now. And when we feel that way, everything in us screams for control. We want it to stop, go away, disappear. But what if I told you that the very thing you're running from might be the very thing trying to wake you up? Anxiety shows up when something inside you is trying to speak, not to hurt you, but to alert you. It could be pointing to a boundary you're not honoring, a situation you're forcing, a version of yourself you've outgrown. But because it doesn't use gentle language, because it shows up as discomfort, we label it as wrong. We think something's wrong with me, when in truth, something very wise within you is trying to break through the noise. This is where the hidden trick begins. Instead of reacting to anxiety with panic, what happens when you pause and listen? Because every emotion has intelligence. Anxiety is no different. Underneath the physical sensation, there's a message. And if you can learn to stop judging it, stop labeling it as the enemy, and simply ask, what are you trying to tell me right now? You shift your entire relationship with it. That question alone is radical. That question moves you from victim to observer, from overwhelmed to curious. And curiosity is the first breath of healing. Now, some people say, but I just want it to go away. Oh, of course you do. But here's the paradox. The more you resist anxiety, the more it persists. The more you fear it, the more power it gains. It's like trying to push water uphill with your hands. Exhausting, futile. But when you shift and say, okay, I feel this. I hear you. What's beneath this? That's when you start to dissolve the grip it has on you. Because anxiety at its core is the body's way of saying, hey, something needs attention. That doesn't always mean something's wrong. Sometimes it means something deeply right is trying to emerge, but your nervous system is scared because it doesn't recognize it yet. Maybe you're on the edge of a big decision. Maybe you're stepping into something that challenges your comfort zone. Maybe you're finally becoming who you were always meant to be. And your mind, it panicked. But growth doesn't happen in predictable. It happens in presence. That's why this first step is so important, to stop demonizing your anxious thoughts and instead see them as sacred signals.
Yes, sacred, because they show you where you're still holding fear.
They show you where healing wants to happen. They point to what matters most. And if you want a practical starting point, it's this. When anxiety shows up, say inwardly, thank you. I see you. What do you need me to know? It sounds simple, but that shift alone begins a whole new dialogue with your inner world. One built not on rejection, but on relationship. Because your mind is not the enemy. Your body is not working against you. These are parts of you that want to be heard, honored, loved even. You don't heal by shutting them out. You heal by leaning in. And look, I'm not saying that everything anxious thought is true. Most of them aren't. But they are real in the sense that they're happening and the sensations are valid. So instead of trying to outthink them, outrun them, or drown them out with distractions, try getting still. Even if it's just for a moment. That stillness is where the voice beneath the anxiety starts to whisper. You may hear truth. You may hear grief. You may hear, I'm tired, or I'm scared, or even, I'm ready. Whatever it is, it's yours. And when you receive it, something powerful happens. The fear starts to soften. The spiral slows down. You come back to yourself. That's not weakness. That's self-leadership. The world teaches us to numb, to hustle, to tough it out. But your anxious thoughts are not asking for toughness. They're asking for tenderness. And when you give them that, when you turn toward them instead of away, you realize you were never broken. You were just waiting to be met with understanding. So the next time anxiety knocks, don't slam the door shut. Open it. Ask what it came to show you, because the truth is, what you fear is often the doorway to everything you've been searching for. Fun. You know that voice in your head, the one that never shuts up, the one that runs on a loop, spinning stories, fears, what ifs, regrets, catastrophes? Yeah, that voice. We all have it. And if you've ever felt like you're drowning in it, here's something that might change your life forever. You are not that voice. You are the one hearing it. This is the hidden trick no one ever told us growing up. We were taught to identify with our thoughts, as if every word, every worry, every loop was truth. We were taught to live inside our minds, to believe everything it narrates. But what if that's been the biggest lie? What if your thoughts aren't who you are, but just passing weather in the sky of your awareness? Let's slow that down. Imagine your mind as a busy street. Thoughts are the cars honking, speeding, stalling, sometimes crashing. Most of us, we're standing in the middle of traffic, getting hit by every vehicle. But when you pause and remember this, you realize you can step onto the sidewalk. You can become the observer of the chaos, not the chaos itself. You are the one watching the thoughts. And when you see that, everything shifts. That moment right there is where freedom begins. Because here's the truth. Your anxious thoughts are not always based in reality. They're often based in habit. They come from past experiences, inherited fears, the wiring of your nervous system, and the mind, it loves to repeat. It loves familiarity, so it plays the same reel over and over because it thinks repetition equals safety. But safety doesn't mean truth. Let me say that again. Just because a thought is loud doesn't mean it's true. And just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's you. You've probably had the experience where you're spiraling about something. It feels so real, so consuming, and then a few hours later, after some sleep or perspective, you look back and wonder, what was I even so worried about? That's the power of awareness. It's what creates space. And space is the antidote to overwhelm. You don't stop anxious thoughts by force. You stop them by stepping back, by watching them, naming them, breathing through them, by saying, there you are again, old fear, old pattern, old story. That simple recognition, this is just a thought, is like unplugging the power cord from a machine that's been running your life on autopilot. Now, I want to be clear. This doesn't mean your thoughts are meaningless. They matter. They're part of your internal landscape, but they don't get to drive the car. They don't get to define you. You are the awareness behind the thoughts, the sky behind the clouds, the stillness underneath the storm. And when you connect to that part of you, the quiet, wise, rooted part, everything anxious starts to lose its grip. You no longer react. You respond. You breathe. You choose. And that's the trick most people miss. The trick isn't about controlling your thoughts. It's about noticing them. The noticing is the healing. You can't control what pops into your head, but you can decide what you give your energy to. You can choose what you feed, what you believe, what you carry. That choice, it happens the moment you realize you are not your thoughts. You are the thinker, the watcher, the witness. And that means you can create space between stimulus and response, between the fear and the reaction, between the worry and the spiral. That space is sacred. In that space, you get your power back. I want you to imagine this with me. The next time an anxious thought starts to rise, maybe it's the fear of being judged, or the belief you're not good enough, or the panic about something going wrong. I want you to catch it like a leaf on the wind. Just hold it gently in your awareness. Don't fight it. Don't feed it. Just see it. And then say to yourself, interesting, that's a thought, but I'm still here. That line right there has saved me more times than I can count. Because no matter what the thought says, you are still here, breathing, aware, anchored in something deeper. You are not broken. You are not fragile. You are not your fear. You are the one who notices the fear and chooses how to meet it. And when you meet it with presence, with grace, with breath, it begins to dissolve, not because it's gone, but because it no longer owns you. This is what the ancients meant when they spoke of enlightenment. Not floating away on a cloud, but being so grounded in your own awareness that the storms of the mind pass through you without breaking you. You don't need to fight your mind. You just need to remember who you are underneath it. And who you are is vast, unshakable, a witness to every thought, yet defined by none. Because at the end of the day, your power isn't in controlling every anxious thought. It's in knowing that you don't have to believe them. And that one realization, it's the key to peace you've been searching for all along. There's a moment, just a sliver of space that lives between what happens to you and how you choose to respond. Most people miss it. They're so conditioned to react instantly, emotionally, automatically, that they never even notice the gap. But here's what I want you to know. That tiny pause, that's where your entire life can change. We live in a world that rewards speed, fast thoughts, fast decisions, fast everything. But when it comes to anxiety, when it comes to those intense waves of fear, spiraling thoughts, or emotional overwhelm, speed is not your friend. Speed feeds the storm. It locks you into reaction mode, where the nervous system takes over and you go into fight, flight, or freeze before you've even had a chance to breathe. But what if instead of getting dragged into the chaos, you could pause just for a second? What if you could train yourself to stop, breathe, and make a choice? It sounds simple. But don't confuse simple with small. The pause is one of the most powerful tools you will ever learn. It's a sacred interruption, a break in the script. It's that moment where you stop running with the story in your head and start writing a new one. When your heart starts racing, when your chest tightens, when your brain tells you something terrible is about to happen, that's when you use the pause. You take a breath. You feel your feet on the ground. You bring yourself back to now, not tomorrow, not next year, not the worst case scenario playing in your head, just now. And in that now, in that space, you choose how to respond. Let me tell you something most people never hear. Your initial reaction is often just your past talking. It's the younger version of you, the hurt, scared, unhealed version, trying to protect you. But you're not that person anymore. You're not 10. You're not 17. You're here. You're present. And you get to decide what happens next. The pause is where you separate your past from your power. And the most beautiful part, you don't need to get it perfect. You just need to notice. Catch yourself when you're about to spiral. Recognize when the reaction is rising. And then pause. Even just 3 seconds. Even just one deep breath. That's all it takes to disrupt the cycle. You can say to yourself, I feel anxious right now, but I have a choice. And that line right there is where transformation begins. Let me share a personal truth. The pause has saved me more times than I can count. In moments where I wanted to yell, to run, to shut down, to fall apart, it was the pause that brought me back to myself. It reminded me that I'm not powerless, that my nervous system might be activated, but my soul is still steady. And once you build that muscle, once you learn to trust the pause, you start to experience anxiety different. It's no longer this tidal wave you can't escape. It becomes something you can meet with clarity, with calm, with courage. You learn to ride it, to breathe with it, to understand that not every thought needs a reaction and not every emotion needs a story. The pause teaches you that you are not here to be ruled by fear. You're here to lead yourself through it. So the next time you feel that familiar surge, that rise of panic, that rush of dread, I want you to pause. Don't rush to fix it. Don't suppress it. Just be with it. Acknowledge it. Witness it. And then from that grounded place, ask yourself, what do I want to choose right now? That question alone is revolutionary because now, instead of being pulled into the current, you've become the one steering the boat. Instead of reacting, you're responding. And that is the heart of self-mastery. Cute, but conscious choice. You don't need to control every thought. You don't need to silence every fear. You just need to remember that you can pause. And in that pause, you return to your power. You return to the truth. the truth that you are not your anxiety. You are the awareness choosing how to meet it. And that choice, moment after moment, is how you outsmart the noise and find your way back to peace. Because the real trick to outsmarting your anxious thoughts isn't force, it's space. And space starts with the pause. There's something really important I want you to hear. You are not your thoughts. Let me say that again, because most people never get taught this. You are not your thoughts. You're the one watching the thoughts. You're the observer, not the noise. And when you finally understand that, everything shifts. For most of us, anxiety feels like a tidal wave because we get pulled right into the current of every anxious thought. We think, what if I mess this up? And suddenly, or we feel that tightness in our chest and immediately assume something is wrong. With our health, our future, our safety, our worth, and we don't question it. We believe it. But just because your brain offers up a thought doesn't make it true. Your brain has one job: to protect you. And often, it does that by scanning for what could go wrong. It builds worst-case scenarios, it loops on fear, it replays old patterns, not because you're broken, but because you're wired for survival. So if you've ever thought, why do I always imagine the worst? That's why. Your brain's trying to help you, but that doesn't mean you have to follow every anxious breadcrumb it drops. This is where the power of becoming the observer changes the game. Let me give you a visual. Imagine you're standing at a train station, and the trains are your thoughts. Freya. Every few seconds, a new one pulls up. I'm not good enough. What if I fail? Oh, they don't really like me. I'll never get through this. Now, most people, they see a train and immediately hop on. They don't even check the destination. They ride that thought all the way to fear, self-doubt, or panic. But what if you didn't get on the train? What if you just stood there, noticing each thought arrive and leave again? That's the shift. That's what becoming the observer means. You stop living inside the thought and start witnessing it, like clouds passing through the sky, like waves rolling in and out. You don't have to fight them. You don't have to follow them.
You just notice.
And when you do that, you create distance.
Yeah.
You give yourself the space to ask, is this thought helpful? Is it even true? Because a lot of the time it's not. That anxious voice is just an echo from an old wound. It's your past trying to narrate your present. And unless you start questioning it, it will write your future too. You get to choose what story you live by. Maybe your mind says, I'll always be like this. And that feels so permanent, so heavy. But what happens if you notice that thought and respond with, that's just a thought? It's not the truth. I'm growing, I'm learning, and I'm changing every day. See what happened there? You didn't argue. You didn't wrestle. You just gently stepped into your power. You don't need to silence your anxious thoughts. You just need to stop identifying with them. There's a quiet strength in watching your mind do its thing without becoming it. That's the hidden trick. That's the secret sauce. You step back and go, oh, there's that fear again. There's that old belief. Interesting, but I'm not going with it today. And sure, it takes practice. It's not about flipping a switch. It's about building awareness, day by day, moment by moment. But I promise you, that space you create when you become the observer, that space is peace, that space is power, that space is you coming back home to yourself. And here's something else. When you start to live this way, it's not just your anxiety that shifts, it's your confidence, your creativity, your relationships. Everything gets better because when you're no longer at the mercy of every thought that pops into your head, you become grounded, you become clear, you become free. You become free. Anxious thoughts may still show up, sure, but you'll meet them with grace, with curiosity, and you'll know this is just a thought. It's not the end of the world, and it's not who I am. You're not here to control your thoughts. You're here to master your awareness of them. And once you do, once you learn to observe instead of obey, you unlock something deep, something unshakable. You realize, I am not the storm. I'm the sky it passes through. And that truth, that changes everything. You know, one of the biggest myths we've been sold is that anxiety is just in your head, that if you can just think differently, everything will change. But here's the truth that no one tells you. Sometimes the key to calming your mind is actually through your body. Anxiety doesn't live only in your thoughts. It lives in your nervous system. It's a full body experience. Your heart races. Your chest tightens. Your breathing gets shallow. Your stomach churns. That's not imagination. That's your body sounding an alarm. And what most of us try to do is think our way out of that alarm. We try to logic our way through it. It's going to be okay. This isn't a big deal. I shouldn't feel like this. But when your body is screaming danger, your brain isn't listening to calm words. It's listening to your body. So if you want to outsmart anxious thoughts, don't just talk to your mind. Move your body. This is one of the most powerful tricks I've ever learned. Your body can either trap you in the loop of anxiety, or it can become your escape hatch. When you intentionally shift your physiology, you disrupt the feedback loop between your thoughts and your nervous system. Let me break it down. When you're anxious, your body goes into fight or flight mode. You brace, you freeze, you hold your breath. And all of that sends a signal to your brain. Something's wrong. That signal feeds the anxious thoughts, which send more signals back into your body. And the cycle continues. But the moment you move, when you shake out your arms, stretch, go for a walk, breathe deeply, or even press your feet firmly into the ground, you're sending a new signal. I'm safe. I'm here. I've got this. That single moment of physical presence, it cuts through the noise like a knife. I've talked to people who've lived decades in anxious patterns, and the thing that finally shifted them wasn't just mindset work. It was learning to anchor into the present through their body. You don't need an hour-long yoga session. You don't need to run a marathon. You just need a few simple tools to reset the system. Let me give you one right now. Drop your shoulders. Unclench your jaw. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. That's it. 3 seconds. But notice how even in that short time, something in you softened. Something slowed down. That's the power of activating the body. Or maybe you're in the middle of spiraling thoughts and you feel stuck. Try this. Stand up, put your hand over your heart, and say out loud, I'm here. I'm safe. This will pass. Feel the beat under your palm. Let that remind you you're alive. You're grounded. You're not being chased. You're just feeling something. Or use the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique. 5 things you can see. 4 you can touch. 3 you can hear. 2 you can smell. 1 you can taste. This pulls you out of the anxious swirl and right back into now. And when you're in the now, you can handle it. Always. What's wild is that these physical shifts don't just help in the moment. They rewire your response to anxiety over time. Your brain starts to recognize, oh, we don't spiral anymore. We reset, we breathe, we move, and slowly the alarms quiet down. This isn't about perfection. You're not trying to never feel anxious again. You're building a relationship with your body that says, when things get loud, I know what to do. I know how to come home to myself. Because your body is not the enemy. It's your compass. It's your anchor. It's your doorway out of the storm. So many people try to meditate or journal when they're anxious, and those tools can be amazing. But if your body is in a full-on state of alarm, sitting still might just make it worse. You need to move the energy. You need to shift the state. And then once you've calmed the waters a bit, then you can reflect. Then you can reframe. The mind listens to the body more than the body listens to the mind. That's the trick. That's the pivot point most people miss. You don't have to fight the thoughts. You don't have to outthink your panic. You just have to interrupt the loop. And the fastest way to do that is to use your body like a tool, not a prison. This is your power. It's available to you anytime, any place, no matter what's happening around you. Because when your body remembers safety, your mind begins to believe it again. And that right there is how you return to yourself every single time. You don't have to escape your thoughts. You just have to lead your body home. We spend so much of our lives trying to control everything. Control the schedule, control the emotions, control the thoughts, especially the anxious ones. We fight them, wrestle with them. And sometimes we even make anxiety worse by trying so hard to make it disappear. But here's the paradox. The more you resist anxiety, the more power you give it. The harder you try to affix it, the more you reinforce the idea that something is broken. And you're not broken. What if I told you that what you think of as a battle is actually a bridge? That what you call anxiety might be the body and mind's clumsy way of trying to evolve you, pull you into the present, stretch your emotional range, deepen your capacity, and jeté. What if the trick to outsmarting your anxious thoughts isn't outsmarting them at all? What if it's trusting them? Not trusting that they're true, but trusting that they're there for a reason. See, when we try to micromanage every uncomfortable emotion, when we grip tight and resist what's rising within us, we miss the deeper invitation. Because life, this big, wild, sacred thing, it doesn't always speak in words. Sometimes it speaks in feelings. And sometimes those feelings are uncomfortable for a reason. They're asking you to pause, to look inward, to reroute. When you finally stop trying to outthink anxiety and instead start listening to it, not believing it, not obeying it, but honoring its signal, that's when the real shift begins. Because here's the truth. Your nervous system is doing its job. It's scanning for danger. It's responding to stress, but it's overreacting. It's like a fire alarm going off when someone burns toast. And what do we do when that alarm sounds? We wave towels at the smoke, we shout over the noise, we get flustered. But rarely do we take a deep breath and calmly go over to the source and turn the alarm off. That's what trusting the process looks like. It's choosing not to panic about the panic. It's saying, this is uncomfortable, but it's not dangerous. This is loud, but I don't have to scream back. It's leaning into a different kind of strength, the strength of surrender. Now I know surrender sounds like giving up, but it's not. Surrender is active. It's powerful. It means making peace with what is instead of constantly bracing against it. It means letting go of the belief that you have to manage everything before you can feel okay, and instead recognizing that okayness lives in you, not in your circumstances. Let me say that again. Peace isn't out there. It's not waiting for everything to be perfect. It's something you access the moment you stop fighting your reality and start flowing with it. I'll give you an image. Picture a river. You're in a kayak. If you panic and try to paddle against the current, you'll exhaust yourself. You'll flip. You'll get stuck in the rocks. But if you learn to steer with the current, to use its energy, to trust its direction, you might still hit some bumps, but you move forward. You grow. That's anxiety. It's a current, sometimes fast, sometimes wild. Sometimes it knocks you off balance. But you are not the current. You are the one holding the paddle. And every time you choose to stop gripping so hard, every time you let yourself float for a moment, breathe, allow, observe, you reclaim your power. Anxiety thrives in urgency. It feeds on the belief that something terrible is about to happen and you have to stop it right now. But when you learn to slow down, to zoom out, to trust that the moment will pass, you stop giving that urgency control over your life. You begin to realize that not every thought needs a response. Not every feeling needs a solution. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is just be present, open, grounded. This doesn't mean you stop growing. It means you stop sprinting toward a finish line that doesn't exist. It means you let yourself evolve in seasons, not in sudden overnight transformations, because you're not here to be perfect. You are here to be whole. And wholeness includes discomfort. It includes pauses. It includes days where the thoughts get loud again. That's not failure. That's life. When you start trusting the process, really trusting it, you begin to meet yourself with compassion. You stop seeing anxiety as a defect and start seeing it as a doorway. One that leads to deeper awareness, deeper peace, deeper alignment. And from that space, the thoughts start to lose their grip, not because you fought them, but because you no longer feared them. You stopped swimming upstream. You let go. And in letting go, you came home to yourself. The moment you stop resisting the current begins to carry you exactly where you were meant to go.